All right, another minute or so here, we'll get started. Oh, Mike D's on now. Is Barb gonna?
She says other stuff, we let us know, so I think we'll.
Right. All right, we're going to get started, and this is the Public Safety Standing Committee, and it's after 8:30, so we're going to get started, and let's do a roll call quick, please.
Manning. Woodhouse.
Here.
Turk. Cosgrove.
Here.
Frank.
Here.
Severson.
Present.
Fleming. Enforcer.
All right, so we have four that meets our quorum requirement. So we are going to move on. Item number 3, verification of open meeting law compliance, everything you posted properly. All right, thank you. Item number 4, approval of agenda. We have a 15-point agenda. Looking for a motion to approve that agenda. Second. All right, and Craig second. All in favor? Unopposed? All right, unanimous. Thank you. Item number 5, approval of the minutes from April 5th, 2024 meeting. Harry.
Second.
Approved it. Chad seconds. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Unanimous. All right, public comment. Looking for any public comment? Anybody either online or in the room? Comments, input? Last chance, public comment. Hearing none, moving on to item number 7, reports. And I guess we will, moving on to item 7, sheriff's reports. I guess we were gonna bump the tower project up, but I'm waiting for Mike Day's on there. Did Barb want to be here?
Barb's on her way over. She was helping me.
Okay, all right. Good timing. Okay, sounds good. So we did have a request to move item number 11, discussion and possible action approval of bids for the radio tower construction. We do have some people online for that, so we're going to bump that up right now, and then we'll go back to our regular agenda. So, Barb, you want to take it from here, or is Mike Day taking it from here?
Either way, we did receive and open our bids on Wednesday. We received 8
bids, I believe it was.
8 bids. I apologize because I just got the bid tabulation sheets last night. They're not prepped and in your folders, but we will put them in there.
So I want to just real catch up for the new members here. This is part of the radio project, and we are looking at needing to put in some greenfield or new tower sites, also some rework on some existing tower sites. And this bid encompasses what, Barb? The greenfield or the entire?
The entire project for what we have to do, like some sites we have to put shelters up, some sites we have to put generators into, different things. But I don't like saying entire because there are other aspects that are not included in this. The road preparation is separate. There's some other things that are not included in this. So it's complicated.
Is this the equipment? Is this the antennas and the transmitting
No.
equipment? This is just structural,
Just civil.
civil, structural at this point, so everybody knows.
So Mike, I'm gonna let you take the lead on this because then I can put the documents into their iPads. They can sync and they'll be able to see what they're getting.
Mike?
Okay, am I coming through all right? I know, I see my video might be fading in and out.
So
If I got a
Mike
good-
is a consultant with True North, and he's the one helping us put this project together. We have some new members here on the county board process, so I just want to make sure everybody's caught up on speed on what we're doing, Mike.
Okay. Yeah, to the question, earlier question, yeah, this is not all of it because of the roads, but this is essentially the civil items, shelters, towers, generators, for the project. So, we, and one of, kind of our last, I guess, big piece, is to, give us an understanding of everything on the project. So, we did get some good results. We were happy about that, and have identified a few of the vendors, but certainly I think we've got it narrowed down. Again, this is a request for bid, so essentially everyone's responding to the engineering requirements in the design documents, and I've got Dustin Brooks here with Edge Consulting. Dustin's our engineer that developed all the specifications and kind of has driven this. So I'm going to let him kind of talk through some of the results, or at least talk through the what we believe are maybe the top three results, and kind of focus on the one we think is the clear winner here. So, but yeah. We've got these. We've got this piece of the equation, and I think that the other good news is it looks like we're going to fit it into the budget, which is one of the big concerns we had. So I'll hit on that a little bit after he's done. But if Dustin, you want to kind of take it away and give a little bit of an overview of the actual results.
Yeah, I can do that, Mike.
Do you mind sharing your screen so we can see the document that you sent me?
Yep, absolutely.
It's in their iPads now.
Okay, so hopefully you can see that. This first page is just the overall bidder that we are recommending to award to. So come back to that in a bit, but this next page, a lot of numbers to it. Basically, each column represents.
Can you stop sharing, make it larger and reshare? Sorry, it's not legible for us at all.
I'm not seeing it in our iPads.
If you refresh, it's 36,409. I can see it in the folder. Hopefully it's syncing.
So Barbie said it's too small to see from what I'm sharing.
They don't have the meeting maximized.
Oh, okay.
There we go. Now we can see it.
Yeah, so a lot of numbers here, so I'll just try to be concise. Each column represents a different bidder. So I've got the names of the bidders up top. They're just listed left to right in the order that they were opened physically during the bid opening on Wednesday. These first three rows are just some standard items that we had in the bid documents, and I'm just keeping a tally of whether they're all completed. So we want to see all yeses for these three items. This section where it has base bid 1, 2, 3, and so forth. Those rows are different tower sites. We had 8 base bids. So you can see as you go over, these are the bids per site, and then in the blue here is a tally of total base bids for each bidder. And so looking at the total base bids, I've got in green the lowest total bid, and then yellow is the second lowest, just for comparison. So Finish Excavating came in as the lowest bidder. And then we had a few alternate bids included. Alternate bid 1A was to perform shelter improvements at Muscadet. So that's this row. We had gave the opportunity for bidders to propose a different shelter material construction. Precast concrete shelters were to be used in the base bids, and they're able to submit alternate construction types if they wanted to. Finish tower was the only bidder that did, and so this 27,000 represents be a reduction in cost for the alternate shelter material. And then the last row was a larger generator size, just to see what they would put forth for those numbers. It says 4,800 is a per generator, compared to the 25 kilowatt generator in the base bids. So these next 3 blue rows are just different combinations of the total base bids with the alternate bids. So base bids, including the Muscadet work, 1A, it's this top row, base bids, subtracting for the different shelter material. Again, there's only finished tower that entered that. And then base bids with the larger generator size. And in each scenario of base bids and alternate bids, Finish Excavating is the lowest. And again, you got Tower MRL as the second lowest. And last set of rows are just the proposed substantial and final completion dates entered by the contractors on the bid form. And the orange highlighted cells are just the contractors that said they could meet the desired dates of the county. And then the white cells are just later dates in time that were proposed by contractors. So in summary, Finish Excavating was the lowest in the base bids and any combination of alternate bids, and they said they could meet the county's proposed timeline for construction.
Dustin, you talked about the building material was supposed to be formed concrete, but the finished is looking at doing a different material.
Yeah, that was the alternate bid 2A. We put that in to see if there's any potential savings and any benefit to timeline to procure the shelters.
What's the alternate material that they're talking?
They proposed a stick built shelter with a stone block exterior. Stick built essentially just meaning wood stud framed, opposed to precast concrete, and then it's an exterior block material, which they provide some example photos of those.
At a saving of 27,000.
Yeah, that's correct.
So I'll jump in here too with a little more clarification. Yeah, essentially we asked for cement cast shelters, which is a very common desired communication shelter. A lot of the manufacturers also build wood shelters with an aggregate on the wood. So we kind of anticipated getting those kind of results as an option from a lot of the bidders, but we did maybe the quick time frame or they, I don't know why they didn't choose to provide that. But yes, the finish shelter is essentially, building on site, basically, instead of having a manufacturer build these and then ship them in, and then building on site, essentially using cinder blocks, but these blocks have kind of a rough surface on the outside, and then placing a roof and essentially building the shelter at the site. the two things to consider here, and I don't know if we've had some real in-depth discussions on it yet, but it's certainly something that we would want to clarify with the county's team during a contract negotiations if we move forward here with Finish. The proposal that they've provided gives us a little better timeline, or it gives them a little better timeline. So we would see maybe the shelters in the project more quickly if we chose this route. The second item there is it is a cost savings, and so when you see that number 27,000, that's actually 27,000 per shelter. We have 7 shelters here. So it comes up to a little under $200,000 savings in the total project. So we certainly want to consider that, talk that through if Finish is the direction the county chooses to go here. But I don't know, drawbacks maybe. There's a little bit of question there about the roof, and just assuring that the roof will handle is built stock enough that it'll handle ice coming off of the new towers. But essentially, other than that, it's a complete mirror of the design that Dustin's created. So.
Okay, so is there a question, again, anybody else speaks to your question, is there a question about being able to get a concrete structure up to some of these tower sites?
No, I don't think we have not seen any concerns from the vendor, and we don't have any concerns that they can get them up there. So
Right.
it just maybe we wanted options in the responses that we could quickly make decisions upon.
So the other buildings, the stick builds, concrete sides, I'm guessing a metal roof, the ice is a concern. Is that something where we recommend putting ice grates over like we do for cables?
That's certainly used in some locations if you had those types of concerns. Most of these towers are not real tall, so I don't know if we haven't really discussed it too much and don't really completely understand the roof materials. I think we would certainly want to make sure it's a very stock, beefy roof, but I don't know if we have any recommendation for you on it today.
Okay. Questions from the committee? Other thought? Yes, Chad?
My only thought, all about saving that kind of money, life expectancy between the difference in material in the buildings. Is there going to be a drastic difference in longevity and life expectancy?
I mean, certain Dustin, if you want to weigh in, I don't believe it is. It's a cinder block, so it's essentially a concrete wall structure, and then the roof materials is really the only question. I think even then, you with these other shelters, usually they'll put the concrete roof on the precast shelters. There is kind of a poly sealant that goes on top of that. A lot of times that poly sealant is due for replacement or reapplication, probably anywhere from 10 to 15 years. And so maybe not unlike a metal roof or a roof that they would propose on these new shelters as well.
Mike, was there a question of what I had heard is that, especially from the gentleman, I think that was the MRL people that were here in the room, that the prefab ones were quite a ways out on ordering and receiving.
That is, I do believe that is, probably the most singular item that is in a lengthy time frame for delivery. So if anything's going to impact our timeline, it could be that item in getting it in. A lot of the work can be done ahead of that, so you've got a shelter foundation sitting there, you've got all the conduits sitting there, but until you're able to place a shelter on the pad and hook everything up to it, it's essentially the site's not ready for additional work, which would be installing antenna lines and installing equipment in the shelter. But yeah, certainly no doubt that the shelters themselves are the lengthy timepiece, and so we know we have a pretty aggressive schedule. So we want to probably consider that as well in any next step.
Do you have experience with any of these companies in particular?
Yes, certainly. North worked with Finnish on other projects. Tower MRL, we're familiar with their work. They've done some antenna work in a lot of the projects that we've done. So we have experience with both of those. Have no concerns about workmanship or working on a project in a timely manner, and a few of the others as well. I've got some experience with, so but certainly these two fall into that application, that they're good vendors.
Any questions? I see it just popped up on the iPad.
Yeah.
Any questions at this time? So what is the process we're looking for? This has to go to, tell me the next process we need for this, everybody understands.
So there's some question on that. If the project and as a whole is approved.
Correct.
So I don't know if we need a separate county approval for this, or if we need approval to select a vendor is sufficient.
Historically, for this project, we have gotten separate approval for each step of the way.
And I think that's smart.
I can certainly, I'm happy to write the
I
resolution.
can write it as well, draft resolution
Yeah,
for.
we've done it for the other two pieces of this. I think that once we get our new procurement policy, that's what it needs to change
clarify
that.
this stuff.
Right. And I think it's important for the county board to know where the process is, what those dollars are coming in. I think from that perspective, I think it's important that vote of resolution, then everybody has the game too.
So does it need to go to finance, is my question. That's my bigger question is there a pit stop along the way? I have not been doing that.
And again, this has all been pre-approved, part of the bond. It's already borrowed, it's already there, so I don't see that it would. I will double check on that, but I don't think so.
I just want to make sure that we're not, that all the Ts are crossed and all the Is are dotted,
Absolutely.
and I have not missed steps.
Okay, I will find that out. I guess, we'll be looking for a motion on this, and I think that initially we could say just to take it right to county board. If it needs another step, I will challenge that for the county board meeting.
Is this related to number 11 on the agenda?
This would be rating to number 11 on the agenda, correct? Okay. So Chad, making a motion to
Forward to wherever it needs to go next. Whether it be finance personnel.
So
go ahead.
can I jump in here with a quick question?
Absolutely.
Okay. I just want to maybe clarify, will your resolution kind of allow us to begin the negotiation process so that we can get again, we've got those couple of options to discuss as a team with the county. But will your resolution, I guess, allow us to kind of negotiate with the vendor here of choice, and then get you guys a specific dollar amount on a contract? And then also, just to add for everyone's understanding, I think last month we talked a little bit about the budget. We had a budgeted amount of about 3.1 million for our civil costs. This we likely, unless potentially we see the alternate shelter option maybe staying under that dollar amount. Otherwise, some of these other options would be slightly above that. But we have looked at the budget. We still had we had about $500,000 in contingency money in the project budget. So even using some of these other alternates, we're still within the budget of the project, slightly reducing our contingency money to about 300,000, which wouldn't be of too concern, because again, this is the likeliest big piece that we've got, but we do have a few other little items to get through. But we're looking pretty good at remaining within the project budget. So just wanted to add that as well.
So if we move forward with, as we're looking at Finish excavating, we've been talking about them the most. Their total base of $3,249,222. Alternate, you have to add on to that? Oh, yeah.
Tracks or
Different ones would do different things. So, again, we've got some small work at the Muscadet site. That's 1A. Subtracting for the shelters would help us help the county in a cost savings. Adding larger generators would counter that a little bit with about $50,000 or $40,000 worth of costs. So you could make a couple of different scenarios there. Even though we've shown you the base with the alternate, you could choose to have alternate 2 and choose to have alternate 3. So it would change the numbers a little bit. But all in all, I think we're probably at maybe let's call it 3.3 or less with any option we would choose.
I think at that point, it probably has to go to finance and personnel, right? It's gonna be over the budgeted amount.
no, well, it is over the budget amount for this piece, not over budgeted for the project because we didn't have contingency to cover that.
All right, so another question for you guys then. How concerned are you about the generators being bigger or base bid?
So I think that's probably a better question for Dustin or Mike to weigh in on, because I really don't know. I'm not a generator guy, and I myself, I don't know what we need or don't need for generator capacity.
So I'll guess with the generator piece, we put it in, and we really want to go back to the vendor of choice as well, because our only concern is not the radio system. Our concern is making sure the HVAC units that the vendor proposes are really robustly covered if we were operating under a generator condition. But so it's a minor piece. If we, I wouldn't have any concerns if we didn't have to use it. But again, we probably want to clarify it with the vendor what they're proposing as far as HVAC units on the shelters.
I guess I'm just trying to decide if I want to add up to 3.3 million in my motion to give the ability to have
Right.
those discussions. At
And
the same time, if I don't know where we're at total in the project for budget either, so if we go over by a couple $100,000 on each piece.
We're over on the roads. I mean, it is what it is. It's more than we thought it was gonna be. But we had contingency for that and still have 300 contingency left. So I still think we're fine. I don't think we're looking for. I'm not worried about that, and I'm worried it's real worried about budget.
I'll add that to my motion then.
so your motion then is to move forward with Finish excavating for 3.3, not to go over 3.3 million, and that gives them the latitude to head the
Choose whatever they
negotiation.
determine.
Gary seconds. Any more discussion? We're looking at going with finish excavating, putting a cap on it at 3.3 million for the civil project. And it's have some things to work out with the roof and some of those details, but that's why we have Mike Day to do it. So we have it. Any other discussion?
Do you think you need to put in the secondary bid from Tower as a secondary, just in case
Just for the,
something
for
happens?
the resolution? Or do we just go forward with finish on the resolution?
Do we see any reason why finish wouldn't be able to? I'm asking Mike and Dustin.
So the question is there any reason why we couldn't negotiate with them and the contract? Is that
I think
that
the
what you're
question was, do you put them in on the resolution as a
Because-
secondary?
Otherwise, if we do this resolution and then they say for some reason they can't complete it, we have to go right back to the drawing board.
okay? No, I mean, I see no reason on our end. Again, you're kind of giving us a total dollar amount not to exceed and then telling us to negotiate with one of these vendors.
Why we're hiring a consultant? All right, so then, are you willing to change the motion to finish excavating primary 3.3 million cap with Tower MRL as secondary so that True North can negotiate the best price? Is that what you're saying, Chad?
3.3 is not gonna cut it with MRL, it looks like, but
Close.
do
And
what you can.
you will agree that your second stands then, Carrie?
Not for negotiating, because I think these guys put in bids and those are what they are, so. It's if Finish were to come back and say, hey, you can't do it because of whatever thing, then our next guess is gonna be, or next
The alternate is.
alternate would be Tower MRL to complete the project.
Okay.
That's what it comes down to. These are already bids that they've already.
What he's speaking of for negotiating is choosing the alternates.
Right, there are three alternate decisions to be.
I'm all right with that then.
Okay,
Because then that's not fair to the other companies
right.
that submitted, and now we just pick those two and then try to negotiate again.
I guess maybe then have the discussion about reference the alternate options. Are you good for your second on that then? All right, any further discussion on this? Okay, here we go for the discussion. All in favor, say aye. Anyone opposed? All right, so that then gets moved on to the powers to be, and we'll find out if we have to hit finance. I think we only have to do county board, but I will find that out today. Excellent. Mike, what else can you tell us about the project while we have you online? Where are we in?
We're kind of, this again completes a big step for us, and so getting that those started, we're going to kind of turn our attention to where we're at with regulatory on some of the sites and where we can get a contractor started working on them. As far as leasing goes, we've got the sheriff's got the draft lease contracts in the hands of the landowners, and so we're hoping to see any comments from them back here next week or so, and then we'll be looking at again kind of signing those and getting those completed so that we've got the authority to go on site and and do some construction work. So things should start moving here next month and with some real stuff that you can see, I guess. But and then the final piece, we're still again, not necessarily landowners, but United States Cellular, which is 3 of the towers. We've made some a little bit of headway, but we still haven't really kind of finalized things there. So We really got to get that completed next week. And so things are coming together, I think, but a lot of moving parts right now. And then again, with the budget, things are looking pretty good there. So.
All right. Questions for Mike Day or Dustin for this project? All right. Thank you very much. We appreciate you guys' work on this, and it's good to see it coming together. Long time in the process. All right. That takes care of item number 11. Let's go back to item number 7, reports. Sheriff, you want to start?
So April numbers, we have a total of $32,035.96 for invoice or for vouchers. Jail bookings, we're at 60 bookings, so we're up 15 from March. Average number of inmates housed, 33.43. 456 monthly complaints for April, 63 traffic citations issued, 3 traffic warnings. Civil process papers served was 33. 4 transports for the month and 7 on electronic monitoring was our average. Dispatch calls per service, we had 679 calls per service into the dispatch center, 84 calls for EMS, and 110 calls for the police department. Aaron included a staffing report for us. We thought with some new members on the committee, it would be good to go over some of this stuff. So if there's any questions about that, we do have the 1 jail opening that we hope to start looking at filling middle to the end of this month. We just have a lot of people in training right now, and to save some time and we just kind of are at our capacity of who we can train at one time. So.
Okay.
Mileage report, if anybody's got any questions about the mileage report, we did clean up that a little bit. So you can see the plate number and the VIN number, but we did, Derek and Candace had discussed they didn't feel comfortable, and I agree with them of including all the deputies' names on the document. So we cleaned that up a little bit and made it a little more easy to view now.
So the squad assignments, tell us a little bit about this. Why are some of them in red? Give us a little reason.
Yeah, so we track the mileage. We track it through our fuel cards. So they have to enter their mileage every time they fill their car up. In red is vehicles over 100,000 miles. So a lot of these vehicles are actually backup cars or training vehicles. And or they're vehicles that we're cycling out and we're about to sell. But there's one that didn't get highlighted. That's a backup squad car. So everybody has their own squad car. We usually keep a couple squads on hand in case somebody hits a deer. So what we do is we just leave all the equipment when we take them all out of service, so that when, in the event that we have a major mechanical failure or we hit a deer or there's some sort of damage that takes a squad out of service, we can just cycle that person into a used squad for the time being.
And you try to replace squads at about what mileage?
We're hoping to do 100,000, so they've been going a little over 100,000. But we've gotten away from the days of 150 to 170,000, sometimes 200.
Yes.
And honestly, we're not seeing the reliability in these cars as we used to with the old Crown Vics, where you could do that and get away with it.
You know, with these newer cars, like Clay said, is that you get around 100,000, we're starting to see more issues keep them popping up. So if we can try to keep switching them out around 100,000 miles, we can hopefully avoid a lot of the upkeep and maintenance costs associated with those extra mileage cars.
So the committee knows, once those cars go out of service, they become available to other county departments. So they're not used as emergency vehicles anymore, but they might be used for other services that.
Ambulance is taking one,
Ambulance.
Health Human Services, Pine Valley, the highway shop. Those are the 4 agencies have taken the vehicles
Right.
from us.
And then we can watch, the maintenance records and see something that becomes high maintenance. It goes out and try and cycle through. So it's kind of a pattern to watch that. Okay? Other reports you have, Sheriff?
Not really. We have a separate item for bills, so. Actually, there is one other item. So it was actually, and I'm not gonna bring this up as an action item, but maybe, just a discussion. Public Works forwarded us a request on, a change of speed limit for County Highway RC, near Fellowship Lane there. I see no reason really to object to reducing the speed limit there. We've run into some issues with, the bus service and trying to get in and out of into the middle school parking lot or intermediate school parking lot, but also at Fellowship Lane there. There's been some crashes recently, and so I would support the decision to reduce the speed limit there. And then the other one that's been brought up where Public Works asked for us to weigh in on was, a 4-way stop in Bloom City at the intersection of D and H. So I would say, because there's 2 intersections of that, the main intersection of D and H, where D heads off to the north.
So what is the speed limit on County RC? County RC is the one out here, past Downer, and it goes out and around these both directions.
It's 55 until
Right now.
until you get to where RC, well, just past where you get to where RC splits off.
Right.
Yeah.
What are they recommending?
You know, honestly, I don't know what the recommendation was. If it was to go to, I believe it was to go to 35.
On the entire stretch of RC, because that goes from the middle
Yeah.
school all the way almost to Pine Valley.
To the 25 zone,
As soon as you turn off Highway 80, it'll be 35, then all the way to,
to the
Pretty
20.
much the bridge there. Yeah.
Bowman?
yeah.
Yeah.
Not the one
Not
that
if you
goes
go-
Not continuing.
Okay,
Yeah,
right, just that stretch.
So from Rickery all the way to Pine Valley would still be 55.
yes.
So the question of this is a little bit of a procedural question. The committee wasn't sure if this should come through public safety. So is that a step that needs to happen? Does a speed limit change need to come through public safety? I guess the opinion is we're gonna look at that. I think highway and sheriff, because you guys meet with the highway committee, with the highway public. So
We have the Highway Safety Committee, which is
Right.
quarterly, we meet quarterly. It's a public meeting. And both of these have been brought up at that meeting. So, but I guess my opinion, and I contacted Bob about it earlier this week, is that I'm not necessarily, I appreciate being consulted on it. But I'm not sure it's my authority to decide what speed limits and where stop signs should be, as opposed to it's my authority to enforce them once they're in place. So,
It's true.
yeah.
So we're gonna look at that procedure. Does it even need to come to this committee? Good question. I think it's good to know about it. And so I asked him to report on it today, so at least we have that knowledge. And then I will sit down and with the powers that be and decide if that's even necessary. At this point, I don't believe it is, but that's something we have to look at as the county procedure, how that looks.
Is it a DOT policy or is it a state statute?
And so that's one thing that
Right.
Bob and I had discussed that I'm unsure on, if there's a state statute that says I need to weigh in on it or not. There isn't that I'm aware of.
I don't think there is.
I don't think so.
It
But
gives you a
who
max
does
limit
it?
that you can go on a roadway. I think
Exactly.
So on the county highways, which is what we're discussing, I think Josh has the authority
Gosh,
to make
the
those.
highway
decisions.
commissioner.
Yeah.
Right. The state one, they have to do a review on, and they have to have hearings on for any speed
Studies.
changes for state study. Yeah, they come and do some speed studies for anything that's state.
For
But
safety statistics,
yes,
all
yeah,
out crashes at an intersection.
yeah, they actually have a guy that sits out on the highway and does speed checks to see what cars normally do to make that determination of what they feel speed limits on state highways should be.
Okay.
So, and I don't know what we have a set procedure on how to determine that for county highways. So that's something we're gonna be following up on. It's an interesting thing that we've never, it's probably out there, we just don't know what it is. And so we'll get back to it. So at this point, it's a recommendation. We don't need a decision here. I guess we've discussed it. Anybody have any input or questions on that at this point?
Well, RC is kind of my neck of the woods,
Okay.
and I would like to see a reduced speed limit. I didn't even know you could go 55 there, because it's, why, I would have never done that.
Yeah, because it's unposted, I think is why you did 55.
I've never seen a speed limit sign.
Well, it's because, yeah, so the maximum speed limit is 55 if it's unposted.
And the yellow ones, there's the yellow thing, that's a suggested speed, isn't it?
For the
It's
corner.
not an actual speed limit that you have.
I don't know if that's there either.
Yeah, that's
But
a
if it's
corner.
the white and black, then that's, right?
Mhm, yeah, there's nothing posted.
Okay. So informational, any other questions or comments on that? Good point. Thank you for bringing it up.
I think all county roads are 55 unless they're posted different. I think that's how that reads.
45 unless they're posted otherwise.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was actually set. Okay. Missed a few tickets in my days.
I'm glad you didn't know that.
Yeah. All right. Anything else on sheriff reports? All right, thank you. Coroner reports?
I did have a coroner report emailed for this to the clerk, as well. And yesterday. Coroner's office handled 8 cases in the month of April. Ages ranged from 65 to 82. Causes of death included 1 cancer, 3 heart related, 1 lung related, 1 kidney related, 1 Parkinson's, and 1 suicide. All 8 cases in April were cremations. He says it's with great sadness that he shares the passing of former Chief Deputy Coroner Ruth Bristol. Ruth worked with the coroner's office from 2013 to 2023 and was very dedicated to her duties, which she performed with compassion and kindness. She will be greatly missed. They continue to be short-staffed at the coroner's office. Ideally, he would like to have 2 more staff members. If you know of anyone who would be interested, please have them give him a call. Regards, Jim.
So just a quick review, the staffing of the coroner's office is a pay-per-call status. It's not an hourly rate. It's when you get called out, so you are on pager duty for nothing until you get a call to help out. So that's been one of the challenges of finding people is. All right, anything else on the coroner then? All right, moving on. Item number C, Circuit Court Judge.
Judge is out of the office
Okay.
this week, so she's unavailable for today's meeting.
Did you, anything that you wanted brought up or anything?
Well, she has been overseeing a lot of Vernon County cases, as well as Vernon County coming here. So, and there's been a number of challenging cases as well. Always.
So would you introduce yourself and your positions to the committee members?
Yeah, that's actually probably one of the next things, register and probate. I'm the deputy for the register and probate. Yeah, my name is Jenny Marroquin. I've been here just over a year. So I'm kind of excited to be here, but normally Jennifer Lau would be here and she is off today. But what I do in my office is we oversee guardianship cases, juvenile cases, emergency detentions, like mental cases. I clerk all the minutes in the courtroom when a case is heard that, our office pertains to. So there's a lot going on. Plus we handle all the phone calls too for scheduling, rescheduling that attorneys want to do, or scheduling weddings. So we're actually wedding planners as well, which is kind of nice, something different. But we also handle adoptions, and not just children's adoptions, adult adoptions, which I thought was interesting. There's adults that get adopted. Yeah.
No, that either.
Yeah, it's something different. But it's kind of an exciting office to work in, so I'm happy to be here.
Okay, so you want questions? this point? You want to touch on the probate office at the same time? Anything else you have?
Probate itself, I'm still learning all those steps for probate. There's a lot of it. We do handle, of course, all the probates. Also, if people, is the determining factor is if someone needs to go to probate is based on the amount of assets that somebody has. So we direct them if they need to open up a probate case, or if they could just disperse their funds with a transfer by affidavit. So as far as like an average number of probate cases, I don't have those statistics, but we have a lot of them opened this time.
Very interesting history in the office. I was able to stop in, and the history of the wills and the documents you have there is incredible. So, learning history of the county. It's all sitting right there. It's very good. All right, anything else?
Our budget is on track.
Key point.
We're doing good with our budget.
All right. Anything else for probate?
No.
All right, I did talk to Clerk of Court Stacy Kleiss. She was unable to make it. She did send an email. Hopefully everybody saw that email. And she also said her budget is on track. We had a little discussion as to what the committee structure that her office and the courts fall under. So we're gonna get some clarification on that. I'll explain that as we get to the next meeting. So, all right, District Attorney.
Sure. It is, hello to the new members. I'm Jennifer Harper. I'm the district attorney here. I usually don't have a lot to say, and today I do. So this is quite unusual. Don't expect this from me in the future particularly. So a couple of things. First, at the last meeting, we talked about getting new ordinances. One was for disorderly conduct with a motor vehicle, and one was an ordinance for contempt of court. The sheriff and I had talked about those and the circumstances under which we thought that those would be useful and that they would be useful. And so I was tasked with drafting language to then provide to Corporation Counsel, see if he approved of that language. He did. I am now doing the little non-legal blurb. I was able to do the legal blurb very quickly. Now I have to do the non-legal blurb that says when we come up for an ordinance, this is the ordinance, this is the basis, what I'd like the committee and ultimately the full board to vote on. So I should have that whole thing for the committee next month around, and hopefully we can take action out of this committee about those two ordinances. If anyone has any questions about those ordinances. So just briefly, a DC with a motor vehicle, we have, this is going to be just sort of a silly example, but we have a lot of things like display of power. So if someone's coming off of a red light to green light and they decide they want to chirp their tires and kind of be a dink, right? So you have a display of power, you have a different thing. But we have weird behaviors that happen that aren't criminal, they're not anything. Basically, they're kids being a problem. Kids, for the most part. They're driving down somewhere, just honking their horn through town, beep, 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 all driving. What is that? That is them. We can do something like that to law enforcement can kind of explain, hey, this is a bad idea and this is why, and all those kind of things. But there are also other things that they can do if we have a person who's chronically, I can think of someone who's in the criminal system who chronically does things with his car that don't exactly fit into any of the thinking of Mr. King, does things with his car that they're not really display of power, they're not speed violations, they're not any of those kind of things. He's definitely using his car to be a drug. So this is just a citation where if the officers feel it's necessary to do something more than just to give a warning, they can do that. I'm thinking, though, from my perspective, it would be a way to resolve cases from criminal down rather than you committed a crime of disorderly conduct from doing this. I don't think they need to get hooked with a crime forever and always, but they shouldn't get a dismissal and it turns it to nothing. So there's sort of a medium step between crime and nothing, and an ordinance would do this. So to a man with a hammer, everything's a nail. I've got the hammer criminal down, and so I thought that that would be useful to me. I don't know if the sheriff's department is going to be using that as a ticket or not, or if they're just going to say, if the DA's got to deal with a case, a criminal case like that, sees that. Anyway, that's where we are in the process, is getting it to a point to provide it to this body. The other is a contempt of court. It sounds, I don't know what it sounds like. This would not be written, my understanding, by the sheriff's department, and that's fine. So what we have is someone's on bond for something, committing a crime, they're under bond until their case is resolved. So there's all kinds of conditions, don't do this, don't do that, and when they do any of those things, they pick up a bail jump, right? So law enforcement goes and arrests them on a bail jump, and usually a new crime, but a bail jump, and there we go. Law enforcement will still be arresting on bail jumps as they should appropriately and as we've discussed. But what happens now is, so you have some main cases, some main behaviors, and then you have all these bail jumps. And what we say in our office, and I'm sure you know, working with my office formerly, is bail jumps make the world go round. So they're new crimes, right? So the more bail jumps you have, the easier it is to resolve these cases on the whole. But again, with bail jumps, the only thing you have then is you have you proceed with a criminal conviction for that or a dismissal. There should be something in the middle ground. Like, okay, you're on bond, you shouldn't have done that. We're getting you for the main crime, but you shouldn't just get out completely out from under the DC. Maybe not convicted of the crime of DC, but so we're gonna have an ordinance for that. So used as part of an overall resolution. I also had a issue in court the other day where I'm doing my thing, I'm talking, I've got a defense attorney over here, and I've got a mom in the back of the thing yelling at me. Jennifer, what about that? Who is yelling at me from the back? Can't even see the back. Who is yelling at me in the back? And the court said, thou shalt quiet. Stop yelling from the back. Order of the court. Be quiet. And then she keeps yelling, right? And so for something, so she could pick up a DC, let's say a disorderly conduct, it's a crime, but it's a mom. So we go through the process, but it's a mom whose kid is having a problem and she doesn't have any priors and she doesn't have any problem. She's just over emotional in court for whatever. There's some kind of middle ground. We're not going to give you a crime. We're also not going to, completely dismiss your behavior in the courtroom after the judge said, gave you an order, a court order. It's sort of a middle ground, right? So you can have those kind of things. We had a guy in the small courtroom once who was, it was a mediation of a family case. Well, he brought a brick, and at some point he is mad, so he slammed the brick on the table. What is that, right? That is something that goes on in the court. That would be contempt of court. So am I going to do that criminally, or am I going to dismiss it? No, we're probably going to give you a ticket. If you don't have a criminal record and those kind of things. So that's why that's where we are, and that's kind of what we're looking at as a way to resolve things sort of as a middle ground as appropriate. Our victim witness space has been corrected. I appreciate Barb. Her office got the phone set up in there and that all got taken care of. So now we have a way to use an extension from our office up there. The heater was also fixed. So now we have a heater and that which is one of our offices. So that's good. So I appreciate that got done. That kind of hooks into the fact that, okay, I'm on point number 3 now. So we're trucking, is our jury trial. I never talk this much, do I, Clay? In here. So our jury trials seem to be on the uptick, and that's partially because of the way the judge is scheduling trials these days. It's a sort of a new system. It has some upsides, it has some downsides. It has a financial impact on my office because I just kind of I'm just along for the ride, whatever the judge is going to say, the judge is going to say. So at this point, we just had a trial. We're having a child sex assault trial, I think next week, a jury trial, and then I have a possession of meth case coming. I just had one scheduled, and this is why they're expensive. sometimes for me. I just had a 3-day trial set for a guy, it was a DNR case. He was shooting across his property all day, all night, all year. He admitted to 150 deer that he shot in left lie, didn't harvest any parts of it. It's very dangerous. The neighbors are getting gunshots whizzing across their property. He's got 22 counts for shining and shooting out of season and all kinds of things. Great. Huge case. Huge multi-year investigation. So when I go into trial, I have all these video cams, right? So if you are the defendant and I'm a cop talking to you, I have a lapel cam on and hopefully I've turned it on. And so I'm talking to you and you're saying all kinds of things to me, all kinds of useful things, all of those things, every single thing for hours and hours of conversations with this defendant over a period of different time. Every single thing that they utter does not get put in a report. All the stuff gets put in the report, but not every single possible thing that you say. So I have the video cams and then the video cams go out so I get a transcript. So that when you lie on the stand, not you, but the hypothetical you, when you lie on the stand, I can say, well, didn't the officer ask you if you shot every night on your property? No, I never said that. Well, I can't go through hundreds and hundreds of hours worth of video to put it back up to say, he says, yes, I pull the transcript and I say, here's the transcript. You said this, what did you say? Right? So this is how this works. If I have a huge case, transcripts are huge. I think on this trial, I had $1,000 worth of transcripts. One case. But I have no way of determining what's going and what's not. So the judge is changing up how she does that, her process for reasons that I understand, but they do ultimately have this kind of financial impact. So we've got another 2 coming up here right away. And so when I had this huge case, I think I had, at first, I probably had more than 30 witnesses on my witness list, because there are DNR wardens from all over the place, and we have civilian witnesses, and we have all kinds of people. Well, I got to put them somewhere or waiting for trial. And that's a requirement under Chapter 950. I've got to put people here. Now, everyone's not here for the entirety of a trial. We can say, hey, I need you here for you're here for an OWI. I need you here at whatever time, chief deputy, or I need you here, whatever. So we try to do that, but we still have a lot of people here at the same time. And that's one of the requirements for the space that we have under Chapter 950. So it's good that we have heat and phone. So those 2 things tie into each other. The other thing is OWI 5s now. It's a felony, has been a felony. 5, 6s are felonies. OWI 4 and above is a felony. Now, if you get convicted of an OWI 5, it's an automatic remand to prison. Automatically going to prison, which means more people are fighting OWI 5s, right? If you could, plead to an OWI 5 and go into treatment, go on probation, take your jail, go into treatment court, do all those kind of things. Much more likely to take a plea on an OWI 5 than, I'm sorry you had 4 OWIs 20 years ago, now you're having a 5th, and now you, after all these 20 years of being a nice, good, rational citizen, doing your thing, county board, you're going to prison. A lot more people will fight that. So we'll have a lot more trials just based on beyond a reasonable doubt, sometimes if people are completely guilty, they just want to play for a fumble, see if the state bubbles. And that's their right. So we're going to have, I think that's going to have an impact on our jury trials, which has impacts on reviews. Speaking of OWIs, there's been, I'm not going to get in the weeds on the legal stuff. There's been some litigation in another county about how OWI search warrants are done. In order to correct or in order to prevent having the same kind of litigation here in Richland County, we're going through a process of changing the process. So I've been working with Lieutenant Sis on the OWI forms that we've used previously and how the judge is going to sign those and things like that. So if anyone wants to jump in the legal weeds, we can come down to my office and we'll talk all day about it. So we're working on that. That was something I'm working on with Lieutenant Sis and the judge Because it was the judge who had this litigation in the other county. And until it goes up to a court of appeals level, we don't know about it, what happens in another circuit court, unless someone says, hey, did you hear what's happening about that? Or the sheriff's department hears, oh, did you hear what that happened to that sheriff's department over there, right? And then you start looking at your own procedures more closely, which is what we're working on there. We've had an occasionally with different okay, so the statute says that when someone dies, the DA has to be notified as soon as practicable, right? So someone dies, someone's got to give me a call. There's been questions over the course of time. Is that going to be the coroner? Is that going to be the sheriff's department? Who is that going to be? And I think that's been worked out. I got a call from one of your deputies the other night, and so that was a good thing, right? And said, hey, sheriff's department says this is the deal. Anytime this thing happens, I said, that's right. Sheriff's department's been doing it and you're doing it exactly right. I think he didn't quite understand why he had to do it because it was pretty obvious to him that this was not going to be a homicide investigation, which is part of the reason they get the DA is to say, because the DA can say, maybe that's an overdose or maybe we need to check into that. I think he was like, maybe we will be checking into nothing on this case because it's pretty clear what that case was. So we also have an agreement as to, if it's someone who's passing away at the nursing home and there's a very clear medical history and we're not going to end up, this is not going to be a homicide investigation. So there is some flexibility and not every means every, but we've worked through that. So that's worked well with the sheriff's department. So that's just going to keep working well. And I'm glad about that. We just went to, so we have treatment court. We run a treatment court here out of Richland County. It involves a variety of people that are required out of a grant that we get from the state. We get money from the state. We put in matching. The county has to do a match, but we can use time and resources as a match. We don't have to use dollar match. So that's what we do. It's currently run out of Health and Human Services. I think there's been a discussion across the state as to whether or not treatment court comes under Health and Human Services, or if it's its own standalone committee, or if it comes under some kind of like court treatment department, or if it comes under the county administrator. So there has been some discussion about that. And we were at this treatment court. We were kind of taking a survey and sort of all over the map who gets treatment court, because pretty much all the departments involved with treatment are there. So it's me and the judge and the public defender and treatment providers and someone from Health and Human Services. And we have a sheriff's department deputy, and we have just Jake Rupp now, who is at the treatment court. It's pretty active on the team compared to what we've seen over the course of time with prior members of your department. He's pretty active. We also have someone from the police department. So we have this whole group of people. We have specific functions and things like that. So every year they have a treatment court conference where we all go together. We learn all the new best practices. There is, of course, always some institutional friction as to what we all think we should be doing in our relative roles as law enforcement, the DA, and the public defender, and treatment. But I think that's why they have all of us together, so that we can put all of our expertise together, and then they just leave us to have a big pillow fight, right? Every time we have to have a meeting upstairs. Treatment court runs every 2 weeks. We have a meeting just with our group. Oh, we have our treatment court coordinator, who is Savannah over at Health and Human Services. If anyone's interested in more information about treatment court, how that works, who's involved, there is a lot to it. My view on it has changed over the course of time, going back 25 years when it started. I started 24 years ago, but it's definitely changing over time. So if anyone's interested in that, sometimes people are really interested in treatment court, like, wow, this sounds like a really good thing. This is something new, a new process, because otherwise we see the same people coming through our jails all the time. And then we see their kids, and then we see, right, it's the same sort of cyclical process. And so there are some people who say like, we got to do something different because doing the same thing is just not working. And then some people think like treatment court is just a slap on the wrist and it's stupid. And, you know, why do we even do that? So then some people fall sort of in the middle. So if anyone wants any more information on that, more than happy to talk. Then the last thing is, so since we had the former US Marshal, who now works up at the security at the state capitol, came through with the sheriff's department, the clerk and the judge, and I was there for part of it. Probate clerk was there for part of it, really did a comprehensive view of what is dangerous here in our courthouse. And I was a little concerned because there was a lot more for me to be concerned about than I previously thought to be concerned about. She's writing a report, which will be useful because now we'll have it from someone in law enforcement from that kind of perspective. But one of the things, you know, that we've always had is we've always had courtroom security. We've always had a deputy up there. And now that we have a jail administrator, she's taken over the process. Tell me if I'm wrong, the process of really looking at routinizing the process up in the courtroom. And so we had, because we know that there was going to be a change in the schedule and how things were going to be scheduled, we wanted to make sure everyone, the sheriff's department wanted to make sure that everyone that was coming in to do court security had sort of a routinized process and everyone knew what that process was. So, so I'd asked that we had just a quick meeting, and Devin was like, yep, let's have a quick meeting and let's get all the stakeholders in on it. So the sheriff was there, I think Lieutenant Sis was there, Devin was there running the meeting, our judge was there, we had my victim witness supervisor and coordinator. I believe there was someone from, I think Jen was there actually in the meeting. The clerk's chief deputy was there, I was there, so we really had all the stakeholders. There might have been more people, but there's a big table of everyone that kind of jumped in. And we got some ideas together about what courtroom security looked like to each of us. And Devin, out of that, put basically a proposal, a chart of, hey, when a deputy comes in, this is what the expectations are, this is what we need to do, so that we all know what that is. And she provided that to everyone, and then I think we're going to meet again so that it's really routinized. So she's done a great job of doing that, and I know the sheriff's department has been working towards, even before Devin, making sure that that all works and there's communications between all departments. That's all I have.
So under the ordinances, the fees or the fines for that, where does that go as compared to?
Okay, yeah, that would go into general revenue, just like all of our other things. Now, at some point, we need to look at, right? So there's this big pie in the sky. We're gonna codify all the ordinances forever. I don't know. That's been going on for years. I don't know what that looks like other than a little messy from my perspective. We will have to go back and look at the range of fees, because it's not really on the fee schedule like they talk about. It's their penalties, and right now I think penalties go from $25 to $400. But I think that there are some cases where we're topping out higher. We'd like to top out higher than 400, and so then we have to use like multiple ordinances. Like there's someone, I think the resolution was something like you're paying $5,000 for this behavior. Well, then I got to charge them with like 10 ordinances to get there, something ridiculous. So I think we're going to have to revisit that. Hopefully we can revisit that when we do these two ordinances. So all the ordinances that I enforce will have the same type of penalties available.
All right.
All goes into general revenue. I've got no revenue stream because that is a really, really bad idea for DA's offices to be taking in money. That is a problem.
Are misdemeanors like a crime?
Yes.
So you aware of that state statute that's out there about collecting DNA from anybody who's been convicted from a misdemeanor?
Oh, yeah. And there's a big fight over who has to collect it, who gets the money, who does whatever. All I know is this: I don't collect it. No one comes down to my office and I don't do any buckle swabs. So at PNP or the jail, or because the jail doesn't do it except under certain circumstances, PNP does it on some people do it on some. Yes, I'm quite aware. I am quite not jumping in that lane, which is not my lane, because I'm going to get run over by a lot of people who have divergent interests. Do you have a specific concern about a specific case?
I just find it really
Troubling?
interesting when I read that in the magazine.
Yeah.
A misdemeanor, and some of them are for not even like crimes that you would think you need to submit.
Like a worthless check?
Yeah, and now you gotta submit your DNA.
There's also that issue. So
That's my problem.
I've got all kind, you know what, I'm afraid of the government and I'm part of the government. So,
Yes.
right, so I understand there's also that concern.
Julie, a question?
Yes. You had mentioned about the woman yelling in court.
Yep.
Is there not any state statute or anything about court?
Yeah.
Etiquette or what's appropriate for bystanders?
There's all kinds of stuff. You can get a
It doesn't-
DC, you could get a harassment because she's screaming at me, particularly, Jennifer, right? What am I gonna do? Charge her? Still, we have to use our discretion, right? Everyone who's acting a certain way at a certain time, you have to look at sort of the totality of the circumstances. What's going on? Do they have a criminal history? Do they have this? Do they have that? So, yeah, so we could have a sheriff's deputy could have gone over and arrested her for disorderly conduct, taken her down to jail and printed her and put her on bond and all that kind of stuff. Well, the reality is this was a mom who was freaking out because of her kid. And I don't want to charge her with a crime, right?
So is that why you feel we need an ordinance then?
Yes,
Because this,
absolutely.
this is what could have happened, but we maybe want to have our own policy per se
Right.
about what to do in those
So,
situations.
right, so when it comes to criminal cases, I have all kinds of discretion as to, let's say, a THC case, so a pot case. Well, if you've had pot before and you get caught with pot again, that could be a felony, right? So these days, having a roach of weed, I don't know that that's felony, right? I'm not going to charge that as a felony. So I have discretion as to how we deal with cases based on basically prior convictions, age of the person, the totality of the circumstances, all those kind of things. So this is an in-between tool. It's not a crime and it's not a nothing.
And that's what you want to put in this ordinances for that specific scenario of the woman, more of this is kind of what our guidelines are for our county.
Sure, it's, so I was using that as an example as to what happened in court, but there's all kinds of contempt of court things that happen. Someone has a restraining order against someone else. I had this out somewhere. And so I can't have contact with you, no contactee, right, for something. We have a court order. And I'm driving past you on 14 and I flip you off. Well, that's directed at you, but I'm not touching you. I'm not calling you. I'm not doing any of those things, but I'm definitely being a jerk
And harassing.
and harassing, and it's in violation. Am I going to charge this person who flipped somebody off when we're going 50 miles an hour past each other on 14 with a new crime? I want to charge them with a contempt of court, right? It's kind of like the jackass tax, right? Like,
What do they get when they get charged with contempt of court? What's their penalty?
sure, that's what we're talking about. So, so an ordinance means you're not going to jail. So a misdemeanor is a crime, a felony is a crime, and then there's different levels of felonies, different levels of misdemeanors. So an ordinance means you pick up a fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that dollar figure has not been sorted out yet. That's something that.
That's what they're working
That-
on.
That's what we're talking about is
That'll set the dollar figure for the.
a range,
For what the penalty
Yeah.
is.
right?
And it might be first offense is this much, second,
Right.
you can ramp that number up too.
Right.
Before you take it up to the criminal
Right.
side.
Exactly. So, or, when someone does that, so we get the flip off, right? And I say, you know what, this person continues to be a problem. Every time he sees him on the road, he's flipping him off. Like, this is just getting to be too much. So then I can charge it as a crime, just to be like, this is a crime. What you're doing is a crime. Stop flippy offy. And then they go through the court process and they do all this stuff. And then, after sometimes process in itself is a penalty, right? Going and getting booked is a penalty, in my view. You wouldn't like going and getting booked, right? That would, as a normal citizen, that would probably be scary or nervy, right? Scary, right? Right, going into the jail, right? But after all of that, I can say, okay, what we're going to do to resolve this case is you're going to get a ticket, and the ticket's fine. And so after, step back, you're not gonna flip people off, we can come back to a resolution that's somewhere between a crime and a dismissal. Because there's some behavior that's between a crime and a dismissal.
Well, and hopefully to deter what they're doing.
Absolutely. I mean, that's absolutely the point.
That's the point, yeah. My second question is about when you were talking about the death notification. Isn't that again something like the state says this is what needs to be done and who needs to notify?
Sure. So, but it says a couple different people can notify, and that's always what the thing has been. Is like, is it going to be the coroner? Is it gonna be this?
It could be
Is
different in
that?
different cases.
Different circumstances and things like that. So, yes. So I'm not asking for an ordinance about that at all. I'm just saying. I was just noting that it's working really well. The state statute does say, the state statute says I have to be noticed as soon as practicable. But then it's got a whole bunch of different people who say you can do it this way or you can do it that way. And so we've really worked to tighten it down to, you don't get to say, oh, I thought you were doing it.
Right.
You get to say,
It's
you
gotta
were
be a
doing
policy
it.
of it.
Right. Yep. So we have one and it's been working really well.
Good. And then about the treatment court, you said that your view had changed through all that.
Yeah.
What was your view in the beginning and what is your view now?
I was extremely pissed off 25 years ago, and I can tell you partly it was personal because all these people who were doing things like not doing drugs were getting gas cards, and I couldn't afford to live. I had to have a second job as an ADA, and people who are not doing drugs got gas cards, and I thought that was fundamentally wrong. That state employees weren't getting paid enough to have to work one job when people who were not following the law, continually not following the law, we're getting rewarded. So, but
Is that still happening?
oh yes, but we get money. But now we get money for that. And the other thing is now, so we have a whole little basket that you get to pick from, but now we have best practices. We didn't have best practices 25 years ago. It was just like, "Hey, everyone gets everything all the time." Right? But that has changed over time. So it's not just this freebie giveaway sort of thing.
That I think, seeing some of the results now.
Oh, right. And that comes from the best practices, right? So I was trying to think about not telling you everything about treatment court because we'd be here for a really long time. But right, so now we have best practices we have binders and binders that say if this happens, then this happens. If this happens, then this happens. And essentially what happens now is when you do certain things, then you get what are called decision dollars, right? Like even though, for instance, I had someone who smoked pot over the weekend. Obviously, you can't do that, but he wasn't testing. He didn't test that day because he hadn't been called in to test. But when he went in and talked to his probation agent, he admitted. He didn't need to admit, he didn't get caught. There was going to be a sanction for him smoking. And he on his own understood this is what treatment's about. I got to puke this information up. So even though he didn't get caught, even though he knew he was going to get a sanction, he came in and told the truth. One of the first things about treatment court is called a proximal goals and distal goals. It's a proximal goal always is tell the truth. We can all, even if we're knee deep in addiction, we can all tell the truth right now. Maybe we can't stop doing meth right now because we just got in the program and we were smoking meth last week. That's a distal goal, right? We got to work you up to that. But a proximal goal always is telling the truth. So wasn't going to get caught, was going to take a sanction for it, but came and told the truth. So you get a decision dollar. So when things like that happen, you get a decision dollar. Then you got to rack up all these decision dollars, and then you might get what do they always like? The sleeve of Reese's peanut butter cups. You know how you can get the ones that come like this. So it's not like it used to be. It's not like this big giveaway. It's not like whatever. But you get some kind of reward for, hey, you got all these decision dollars and like that. So it's that in that respect, it's a lot different. And then I think we have only had, this program has been going on for 7 or 8 years at this point. We have only had one person who has completed the program, who has recidivated. So that is a long time. That is a lot of people who have come through our program. And the people, to get in our program, you have to be high risk, high need. right? Those are the people. And so the people in this program, they have either been to prison, or if they flunk out of this, they're going to prison. So they're highly these are the people that we've seen over and over and over and over again, and we've got to get them sorted out because they're doing life in prison on what I call the installment plan. 2 years here, 3 years here, this. So we've only had one person who's recidivated, Lisa Laverty.
That's pretty impressive then.
Because there are people who I would bet $1 million. There is no way they're making Bruce Green. No way he's making it through the program. There is no way Perkins is making it through. There's a whole list of people that for 25 years of prosecuting, I'd say no way. I would argue for them to go to prison in court. And the judge would be like, nope, they're going into treatment court. And I'd say that is not going to work. And it has. And it's shocking. It's shocking to me. It is shocking to me.
So it's good. It's successful.
Yeah, it's very successful.
Other questions for B. Harper? Right, anything else?
Not for me.
Awesome, thank you very much, especially the new members and catching everything up is very helpful.
Yep.
All right. Budget wise, how's your budget?
Well, we'll find out. Well, I just got the thing during this meeting for April. Bills for April. I'm gonna guess the next one I get is gonna be, we're gonna have my transcripts are gonna be
Gonna be on that one, okay.
it's gonna be on the next one, and it's gonna be through the roof because I think I have $500 for transcripts. But I have no control over
That is the challenge.
people who, I'm just along for the ride. I can do the best I can.
Right.
That's Mr. Stanek.
Emergency management.
Right, she had mentioned that you're having meetings on courtroom security and so forth and so on, so I think I need to debrief
Absolutely.
on that. So I'm gonna get up to speed on what she just reported.
I can send you the email. Yep.
And then I've got some things moving in the background that are going to support the overall mission, all floors, all sides of the building. So not just.
Introduce yourself real quick for.
Oh, my name is John Heinen. Those of you. Okay, and I do interim emergency management direction for the county at this point. And have been doing LEPC and chemical hazards planning for all the facilities of the county. So anyways, there are a number of other participants in the emergency management community in the southwest corner of the state of Wisconsin that have also gone through this in their respective counties, and they've decided that there are some best practices that are available to all counties and are willing to share it with our county. So I'm going to try to coordinate those resources with Jennifer and with the other Jennifer and with Clay and other stakeholders in the building to make sure that all the concerns that are here that I don't know about get addressed in consensus. So that is in motion right now. And I don't think I have anything else except for there's a ton of exercises coming up with the Kilbourne Prairie du Sac dams that the Alliance is doing, so I'll be participating in that. Schweiherk is doing a number of power outage tabletops and functionals coming up, so I think I don't know if I'm gonna have the courthouse involved with that, but public health will be. And so will the fire department and EMS and the hospital. So we're in motion with a bunch of exercises coming up.
Are those all tabletop exercises at this point?
Now, the one on the 15th with Schweiherk, that is going to be a functional between the hospital and us and the state. So I think at this point, the hospital will be activated for that on the 15th of May.
Okay.
And the EOC will probably be activated as well, separately, but jointly.
So this will be an active training going on in the community at that point.
With power outage and public health implications. That's what that one. Dams, and then there's a couple others coming up in May and June that I still got to coordinate. So other than that, I don't think there's anything going on in the county. Other than there are predictions for the potential of flooding this summer. We're not real sure where those systems are going to set up at, but given the tornadoes that have been stretching from Texas to here and out east. There is very high potential for atmospheric systems to set up over Richland County this summer and stay in position for a while. So if that were to happen, I hope we're ready for some rain. It may not happen. It all depends on how La Nina shifts out of El Nino right now in the Pacific Basin and how the Arctic is responding to those shifts. But from what I've seen so far in the last 2 weeks, it could be very rough for us. So hopefully everybody's aware of that and stays on top of it. So for the county, that's all I know about. And if there's anything else going on, don't hesitate to contact me with it. Get what's going on.
Very good. So I know you have been working on the courthouse security project and the training and that.
Yep.
Yep. That continues. But
yeah, there's a lot of moving pieces outside of EM, but I hope to coordinate some of that so that we're all on the same page.
Keep you busy.
Yes, indeed.
All right. Anything else from emergency management today?
That's it.
That's it?
Yep.
All right. Moving on then, PSAP and GIS grants. I guess for the committee, the state has 2 grant projects that come out. Trying to do their 18-month rotations, but they come out every year, so they have an overlap. And I chair the state committee that helps work with that. So I'm really trying to make sure that Richland County gets their money out of this. So that's why we're reviewing this. I think Barb's been kind of point on a lot of this right now. So any new updates on that or where we are?
We were granted another $10,000 into our PSAP grant. So thank you for the advice, much appreciated. That will help cover some of the wiring. We have started to spend our portion of the co-spend. We are required to have a match. For the 23 grant, it's a 10% match, I believe. For the 24, it's 5%.
Correct.
And so we're spending those matching dollars. Now we're just about wrapped up with the 23 grant. We have put an extreme push onto our vendor, and it looks like we will be wrapping up June 11th, which is just inside of the June 30th deadline for that grant. Things are finally falling into place with that, and we're very happy with that. Waiting on a few more expenditure receipts for those grants. Then I have things started for the 2025 grant. I've started putting all of those together.
Excellent.
Somewhere.
So the 2025 grant will be $16 billion for the PSAPs, up from 8. Yes, and then the GIS one is up to 6 billion from 2. I think is what it is. We got a lot more funding this year out of the state. And so the committee knows where does that money come from. You look at your cell bill, there's a line in your cell bill that says police and fire protection. That will be changed later this year to 911. And that money then is routed back to the cell companies, back to the counties to improve communications on the 911 sites. That's the project.
That PSAP stands for Public Safety Answering Point.
It's a 911 answering point. Okay, thank you.
So you dial 911, it brings in the dispatch, and
that's the PSAP.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So yeah, sorry for the acronyms. I guess, we got to all kind of catch up.
GIS.
Yep. Yeah.
So this is a fee-based revenue collection.
Yes,
for
it is.
allocation to units of government.
Yes, it is.
It's audited and checked and everything.
That would be a wonderful thing that we are currently, that's our next, one of the, I don't want to get too deep into this, one of the phases we're working on is to find out exactly how that collection process is documented from the cell providers and from the communication side. There's been a few states that have done that and have found some interesting gaps in how that funding is actually brought in from, how do we know how many people bought cell phones in Wisconsin and are getting that fee, they disconnect and add. So,
what accountability.
yeah, the accountability process is something. We got the money going, so that's
where all the extra money's coming in.
Yeah, it's all the PSAP and the GIS stuff.
From that.
Yep, funding for OEC, funding for the telcos. It's all coming out of that pot.
All of a sudden.
Well,
Does it coincide with anything in particular?
Does it?
The increase?
No, the increase has been there, but it used to go to shared revenue. It used to go to the general budget and then shared revenue, and then this last year, we got that broken apart into two pieces. So now we're seeing that funding just coming to where it belonged, instead of going to the general fund under previous administrations. I'll leave it that way. So, all right, any other questions with that? That's a project. Radio tower project, item I, we discussed that already. I think we're caught up on that. Mapping radio system squad updates. I think we talked about the squads and the mapping. Ready? Good with that. Item number 8, approval of monthly invoices. It's on your sheet.
Questions on the bill? I do have one correction to make that I discussed with Amber yesterday after I reviewed these. The CDW government bills will need to come out of Fund 92, the new car outlay. But we'll make that correction.
Okay.
I have a question. You get on there, the Wisconsin Department of Justice for time. What does that entail? Is that something that's occasionally or monthly or?
Thank you.
That is a regular recurring bill, but it's for the time system fees. So that's where, like, if I give a basic example, would be an officer makes a traffic stop, we run the license plate or run the driver. That's how we get that information back.
Warrant information. So if someone's wanted, it goes into that and goes out nationally to be checked.
So is it vary on how many times you use that, or is it a flat fee?
Set fee.
Yep.
And you see our Elio for some foods. That is 13,000. That's still coming out of Grant County?
Yes,
And then we still got
that's
30.
PO meals. They come out of Grant County.
And that's, you gotta have like 30 inmates and we get a discount or?
No, I believe it's a flat rate now. I don't think we get a discount if we hit a certain point. We used to, our last contract, we got a discount if we had so many meals, but.
Other questions on the bills? Want to look them over? Hearing none, I will look for a motion to approve the bills. Okay, moves, Julie seconds. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, moving forward then, item number 9, discussion of possible action of amendments to the Richland County Sheriff's Department Ordinance 89.7. Oh boy. So 89.7 is actually the year this was put together. We have it in your folders. We have revamped it. We have reworked it. The committee prior to this has reviewed it and gone over it to make changes to bring it into line to the new world. I don't know if the new committee members have had a chance to look at this yet. That's my first concern. I know we would like to get this moved forward as soon as possible, but I also don't want to step on any toes for people that have not had a chance to look it over. This will have to go to county board. This committee, we're looking for this committee to move it to county board, and then the county board to approve it. In a nutshell, 89.7 went through a very detailed process of putting together a list of possible employees. That list would be narrowed down, and then that would come to a committee, or that would go to a committee. The committee in the end would pick 5. 5 people would come to that committee. The committee would pick 3. Those 3 would go to the sheriff. The sheriff would pick off of that list. In the end, we don't always have 5 people. We don't always have 3 people. We sometimes only have 1 people. But to follow the ordinance, that person has to go through all the steps, and that can take 2 or 3 months. In the world of hiring, 2 to 3 months, people have gone on to another job. And we're really trying to narrow this down. And the essence of this is that, yes, we will still, I think it's still important that a civilian, a member of this committee, sits in on at least one of the interviews so that we have an understanding of who's coming into the sheriff's department in the world of public and law enforcement communication. I think that's important. But then it brings it down to one person from this committee working with the sheriff instead of a quorum, which sometimes we couldn't get quorums and have special meetings. That's the biggest change, I would say, in this whole thing. We did add some language. The chief deputy can go back to their former position. The jail inspector can go back to their former position, and the lieutenants can go back to their former position in the department. If they're promoted to that position, doesn't work out, they don't like that job, they still have that protection to go back into the department under their previous position. We felt that that was also a good move, one, for the experience of the person. If that person is a problem, they're going to go through the dismissal process anyway. But that way we're not losing that quality staff that they feel like they have to move. And it's happened in the past. We've had that happen. Chief deputy moved back down or something. So I'm looking for this committee. I think we have worked on this pretty hard, and unfortunately we have some new committee members who haven't seen it. So I'm looking for a motion, if that's okay. It's up to you guys to move this on to county board. And we can hash it out more then. If we have more questions, we can also discuss it.
Chair, if I could, what's the estimated, I guess this is like a lead time savings, right? I mean, essentially you want to get through the process more quickly.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So how much would this expedite that? Or I understand it might be different depending on when dates fall and, you know, of committees and that process that you described, which does sound multi-layered. So how much more quickly do you think that we'll be able to get, you know, that offer out to a candidate?
I think a good strong estimate would be we could go from 2 months to 2 weeks. Maybe even less than 2 weeks, depending on how the stars align.
Sure.
But yeah, 2 months down to 2 weeks probably would be safe.
Yeah. Yeah, 2 months is too long.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I looked through the draft and I think I have an idea of it, but thank you for that. And so there would be oversight, there would be one member from this committee on the interview process, is that right?
Yeah, the chair or designee. So
There's actually 2 layers of interview process, isn't there? There's like before it even comes to us.
Sure, yeah. And
that's just what inside their department.
Yeah.
Is that pre-screening?
yeah, we narrowed, so we do a testing, but depending on the position, if it's a patrol position, both a physical and a written test. And then from there, we move on to an interview amongst our staff. And then we bring our top candidates then to the final interview, which used to be for the committee. Now will be a small panel, including a committee member.
Okay, and then they would base essentially making a recommendation to the board.
To the sheriff.
To the sheriff, okay, because the sheriff has the
Authority to hire.
That authority. Yeah, okay, yeah.
Yes, Jack.
Not really a question. I'll make a motion that we forward it. 1, I trust the previous committee. 2, I was on this committee before, and this has been a discussion that's been going on a long time. I was in on a lot of those previous interview meetings, and it was hard to get 4 people. Oh, man. Yeah. So I'll make a motion that we push this ahead.
Okay, motion from Chad, looking for a second.
I'll second.
Great, seconds. Any further discussion on this? In 18 months at least, well, it's been longer than that. It's been a snag. Well, it still has I think, pro council still wants to review a couple things on it, so there may be something there, but I think overall we've hit all the keys. All right, no further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Moving forward, let's get this on county board, please. All right. Item number 10, discussion and possible action on approval of purchasing radios from short-term borrowing. Are you ready for that?
So I'll talk on this briefly, but I'm not.
Okay, so no decision needed, just.
So just, so this, I guess you get to hear about it now before I come back with a complete project. I will have some money left over from short-term borrowing this year. Back when we set these numbers with John, Hockomer last year. I borrowed for 3 squads, I did not purchase 3 squads this year. I'm building 1 patrol vehicle and 1 admin vehicle. So that's kind of a significantly reduced cost than what was anticipated. I will have some money left over. My idea is that I would like to purchase my agency's subscriber radios for the new system from the remaining funds, leaving what we have set aside in the larger project for subscriber equipment for our smaller, and not necessarily smaller, but for our fire and EMS departments in the county.
So instead of buying out of the grant, out of the funds for the tower project, want to leave that money there, you will take it from a different pot that the money's already been allocated for.
In hopes that maybe this will benefit our fire and our EMS personnel.
Okay, so that is extra money in the
Did
radio
ask
project.
about that at the last mutual aid committee meeting in Lone Rock, so that's important to them.
So when I was preparing the documents for this meeting, I realized that installation wasn't included in my original quotes. So I had asked for updated quotes with installation. They just came through this morning, so I'm not quite ready for that yet.
Is this my understanding is this is not something we have to deal with today?
No,
But
we have time.
we have time to deal with that.
Yep.
Okay. So reallocating some resources to help out the larger goals, what our plan is.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'll leave that one at that for now, and I'll come back next month with concrete numbers.
All right. Very good. Anything else? Any other questions for the sheriff? All right, moving on to item number 12, discussion of possible action, set future meeting dates and times. First Friday of the month, 8:30. Does that work for everybody? Most of the time. But we do have the Zoom. We do have, you know.
No.
All right, perfect. Yeah, perfect. Your input is important. So, all right, so we will continue working on the first Friday of the month at 8:30. We will have, when do we have to do the jail tour?
We usually do that in December.
That December?
We usually closely follow the state inspection with that.
Okay.
Usually.
All right, so we will do a tour of jail dispatch with the state inspection that's coming up.
With that being said, I mean, if any of you new members want a tour, you're welcome to come take a tour wherever you want. We have staff in there that can walk you around, or the sheriff, myself, and walk you around to see what's going on in the whole building here.
Yeah, I think that'd be good for myself.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. Yeah.
Please make sure you don't have an active warrant.
Get in.
Get in, don't get out.
You get the real fee. Tour.
And
Yeah, please, go ahead and schedule it.
Yeah, and the same thing goes for my office. I haven't seen I've been here as DA, I've been a prosecutor for 24 years. I haven't seen very many members down in my office people have a lot of assumptions of what happens, but, assumptions are what they are. So if anyone wants to come down and talk to me, talk about treatment court, talk about anything that's touching on our office, talk about how cases get charged or things that we're working on, routinization, what has happened with Marcy's Law, which is a victim's rights constitutional amendment, which came into play a couple of years ago, how that's impacting our office. You've heard all about this for years, right? But for those of you who haven't done it before, please feel free to stop down anytime. We're always there, ring the bell, and we shall appear.
So at the next meeting in June, I don't have the date. Can we just plan after the meeting? Anybody who wants to tour, we can just.
Yeah.
You guys want to just plan ahead for that a little bit?
Yep.
All right, let's just do that. If that way we can schedule it and just take that time right after. Have that opportunity.
June 7th.
June 7th? Okay.
Yes.
Show them. All right, I have no correspondence. Unless anybody else has any correspondence, item number 13. Anybody have any future agenda items?
And what any update from everybody where they set as far as their budget then next month?
That'd be a good idea. Yes, because I know some people are already getting their budget dates set to meet with the county administration. Okay. Yes, let's get budget items. The agenda, all right? Item number 15, adjournment. Would you prefer a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Julie makes a motion. Gary seconds. All in favor, say aye. Thank you. It's 2 hours, but we got a lot out through. Thank you very much.
Great, not everyone. Here, I have.
Craig, I hope we got enough information. There's a lot going on here.
Yeah, there is. There is. I mean, I read up, a little bit of what was